Hi, welcome to Gear Freak Surf Shop. This time it's a great pleasure to have Mikkel Asmussen here, the guy who just cracked the 50 knot barrier in Luderitz. And there's a nice turnout of people. Glad having you here, and there'll be more people coming in. There's some Simmer team riders, and some people maybe we can convert to Simmer.
Let's see.
Let's see. The floor is yours, Mikkel, and let's go.
Thank
and if
you
you guys have any questions, it's very casual. Okay?
Super.
Go ahead and just ask.
All right. Well, as Mark said, thanks everyone for coming.
Applause for the 50 knots.
Oh! Thank you. I want to, first of all, I think I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mission, why I went to Luderitz. Afterwards, we can have a chat about equipment and stuff like that. Initially, whoops, there goes the beer. Initially, why I went to Luderitz was because I sat down with Ben Prophet, and we had a talk about great windsurfers in this world, and we started talking about who did a double forward, a wave 360, and who passed 50 knots. And we sort of came to the conclusion that not many. Maybe Bjorn, maybe Antoine. And I was like, hang on, I might be able to make it into this club with a bit of luck. I've done a double front loop, I've done a wave 360, I'm nowhere near 50 knots, but it felt like it was an elite group of people. So I spoke to Bjorn, and he said, he wouldn't really claim it, like not say, yes, I'm in that club. And Antoine, he said, yes, I'm in there. And I said, fuck it, I have to be a member of that club. Spoke to a few other people, Gunnar Asmussen. He was like, this is pretty cool. It's got to be like a 4-man club then, and it's good to motivate other people. So we sort of, Gunnar and me, we sort of said, fuck, we're going to do this. We're going to have to go on this mission. And that's how my speed sailing mission started. First of all, I didn't really think I needed to go to Luderitz. I said, 50 knots, peak, it's got to be done. People have done that in La Franquilla and here. And I went down to Eric Biel started a speed contest in France that I entered. Great place, a little bit too square, the wind, a bit of waste of money and time, and nowhere near, we were doing 40, 43s, 44s. Went a lot of times to La Franquilla, didn't really go there, and then I spoke to Farrell O'Shea, who's obviously, most of you probably know, and he said, you have to go to Luderitz. You'll do 50 knots like this in Luderitz. I was like, really? Anyways, signed up for Luderitz and thought, okay, what the hell with it? We'll do it. Went there, not really tried. I tried the boards briefly in France and thought these boards were really, really good. I'll come back to that. Went to Luderitz, had 8 days of light winds. Couldn't even get over 40 knots over 500 meters. I was like, you are kidding me. I was really demotivated. I was like, I cannot believe this. It's relatively expensive to be, and I was like, this is a disaster. It's not gonna happen. Then we got 1 day of, I wouldn't even say the real Luderitz wind, but we got some wind. We had maybe 35, 40 knots. And surely enough, I think the first run I had was like 48.5 knots peak, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And surely during that day, I passed the 50 knots in the peak and was, pretty good average 500 speeds all the time. And then from there, in the end, I think the third last day, I ended up 52.84 peak and 49.40 500, which then also is a new Danish record. That was held by, some of you might remember Torkild Christensen. He actually held it from Tarifa in '95. So it was nice to break that record, but it was also nice to step in and sort of reach my goals, get the 50 knots, and say, I've done a double forward, a wave 360, and past 50 knots. It's 3 relatively difficult moves, and yeah, for me I'm happy to have entered to have reached my goals, and yeah. Of course, then what happened was that I realized that the outright Danish record was 50.3 knots over 500. And obviously, suddenly you realize you're within grabs of that. So the barrier just moves up and up and up. And so I had to tell myself, listen, you got to be happy with what you achieved, what you came for. Don't aim for that. Don't aim for this just now. So I signed up next year now. Now it's a new mission. Now it's to be the fastest sailor, boat or whatever, kite in Denmark. Because that's then the new mission. And as long as there's no kiters going, I think it's it's possible. Yeah. So Luderitz is an amazing place to go, and I think almost regardless of what goals each of you might have, you'd all be able to achieve them there. If the wind is there, then I think this year everyone set a new personal record. Everyone who was there, maybe apart from Farrell and Bjorn, I think everyone else reached a new personal PR. And obviously these guys were both there when in 15 when Antoine set the world record, and that day was apparently out of this world. I never saw it anywhere near that as windy. They all say that day you could only see half the course. The rest was just sand. And this year you could easily see the entire course. And when you see the videos, you can actually see Antoine. He sort of disappears halfway down. It's hard to say if I would have gone. A lot of people didn't go that day. But on those days that we had, I was on the 5.4 with the 40 centimeter board and about 5 kilos of lead. I'm 97. I was 97 kilo at that point. So it's not super windy. You could still probably go up to 8 or 10 kilos of lead and be on the same sail. And as I said, I think we had 35, 40 knots of wind. But the place is, it's a unique experience because it's not a competition. It's about, first of all, it's about a national, a world record. Secondly, it's national records. And third, it's personal records, which is, yes, very important, and which also creates an atmosphere at the place which is very unique because everyone is happy on behalf of each other. Every time someone comes back with the truck, all people in the starting area knows your speed, and you probably all told each other like, oh, my goal is to do 45 knots. So when you come back, everyone knows you did 45. So you have 30 people like this when you come back. Oh, you did it! And you sit on the truck and look on your GPS, and you're not quite sure, and you just see all these people just shout, yeah, you did it, you did it, you did it. It's an amazing experience because it's a group thing, and yes, there's only a few guys who might have a bit of a competition going for the outright world record, and then obviously a few people from the same countries might not be cheering quite as much for each other, but I'd say it's a good experience for any speed sailor to go. The
Ben really showed that in the videos that it's a lot of fun. It's really friendly.
Yes.
And it's like friendly competition.
Yeah.
I think that really
Yes,
good that you guys sent them over here.
it's a great group of people, and everyone is helping each other. Everyone is like, you know what, I looked at you, I think maybe try a little bit more downhole, and oh, you need a smaller fin? Hang on, I have a fin you can borrow, and yeah. I helped quite a few people out with the boards. I had a few spare boards, and it's a bit of a promotion thing also, but a relatively large amount of the fastest guys did their records on the 40.
How was the wind there?
It's gusty. I mean, gusty. So it's not 5 to 40 knots, but it's probably 25 to 30 knots. I would say the most difficult thing about the place is getting going, because the wind is gusty in the starting area. It's a relatively short entrance to the course, and it's shallow. It's at places it's like this. So if you don't pop the board on the plane, you'll be like this, and you hit your fin, and yeah, quite a few fins went to the fields of fins. The downside probably of going to Ludwig is that suddenly speed sailing is more or less pointless anywhere else in the world. Because you go there and you go so, your speeds are so fast that okay, you can practice other places, but it's very unlikely that you will get to that point.
You make it sound easy.
I mean,
It's easy to better yourself.
Yes, I mean, sailing the course, if you get going, sailing down the 500 is easy. I mean, that is an easy task.
Like nuclear.
Yeah, yes, probably. I didn't really try it that windy, so I wouldn't say it. But I guess if it's 50 knots, 60 knots, then yes, then it's probably a bit of a mission. But the difficult part is getting going and stopping. You only have about 100 meters to stop, and when you come in with, let's say, 50 knots, I make that, is that 2.5 seconds? Then there's no more water. We have some, but nothing that's really good. No.
But any place that you can go on a speedboard, basically.
Not really. No? We go to Germany, Vollerwijk and Boezem, or all the way down to France, La Frankie.
Because in Holland we're very lucky.
You are very blessed with, the speed sailing scene in Denmark is also not very big. There is a few spots, but there's nowhere where you can do 500. Absolutely impossible.
Hey Mikkel, maybe it's interesting to tell how you got to Luderitz. I mean, yesterday we had dinner and we were talking stuff and we were talking money, because it's quite some ordeal in terms of the funds you need to raise to get there. It's like almost like a Dakar, but then on a windsurfer. Tell us how you got to hold that, the preparations, and how did the whole thing look like?
The easiest way, I guess, to come to Luderitz is to fly into Cape Town, rent a car, and then you drive up. It's about 12 hours. Most of the driving is in Namibia, and you will quickly be told, don't drive at night. It's not because it's dangerous. You're not going to get robbed. Well, you might, but that's not the reason. The reason is animals. There's animals on the road, and you have ostriches and deer and stuff like that, and there's no lighting or anything. You're in the desert. You do not want to hit ostrich. And it's straight roads, you're doing 150. That's simply too dangerous. Even the trucks don't really drive at night up there. So you drive up, you can stop. There's a few very nice towns on the right way. It's beautiful bed and breakfast places where you can sleep for the night. So you cut it into like 2 6-hour drives. There's a really well-made highway. And then there's a beautiful way that goes past something called the Orange River, which I would suggest that anyone takes, either coming up or coming back, because it's a beautiful trip, but it's a lot longer and slower. So you rent a car, you can probably share it with someone, and you drive up. Once you're there, actually staying in Luderitz is not expensive, and food is cheap. So the expensive thing is the entry fee, which is roughly 1,300 euros a week, and then the plane ticket. The rest is
Is there a minimum amount of weeks that you have to go?
no, you can go for a week. The thing is that the wind pattern also makes it, I would say, going for 1 week is very risky. Obviously, depends on your goals. If your goal is to do 35 knots, you can take a week. I guarantee you'd probably do that. But if your target is, let's say, 45 knots above, you probably need at least 2 weeks to make sure you get a day. What puzzled me when I was there was in the first couple of days, I was like, let's go windsurfing. And they all went, oh, there's not enough wind. I'm like, it's 25 knots. What are you talking about? Let's go. You won't make it down the course? Shut up. I'll make it down the course. I'll take the 5.8 and the 43. The wind angle is so deep. It's 140 degrees. You get to the corner, because it's about 90 degrees in the starting box. You get to the corner and you're like, fuck, I'm fully powered here. You swing around the corner and you just go. You 200 meters down the course, you have to stop. You got to stop and walk out of the channel. And I was like, I can't believe it. You stand on next to the course and it's 25 knots, fully power. Right out to sea, they're flying around with 6.3s and 5.8s in the crosswinds, 90 degrees. You get into the channel, there's no chance you'll make it down. So yeah, the first week or so, where we had very little wind, I was a little bit afraid. I was like, Jesus Christ, will I ever even pass 40 knots, and will we ever make it down this course? And so if you were there for a week and you had that, yes, you could be wasting a lot of money. I would say I would definitely, because staying there is not expensive, it's the entry fee, and the plane ticket is about the same price. I would definitely say go 2 weeks or more. I'd rather make it a one trip in a lifetime than save money for another year. Spend another year saving up and then go for 2 or 3 weeks instead of going for 1 week, because I think you'd be in a bad mood if you left and you hadn't gone on the water. Yeah, so I mean, as I told you, I was a little bit demoralized in the first 10 days because it didn't happen, but in the end, that all turned around. It was an amazing experience, and the personal feeling is fantastic. I can only say to people, if they have any ideas about going really fast, they should make that trip. It's an amazing experience, some nice people, and yeah. Namibia is apparently a beautiful country. Lüderitz is not that interesting a town. There's a ghost town, you can go and see that. You can spend about half a day there. There's another place, DS Point, I think it's called. You can drive out and see that, and that's about it. And then make sure you have a good bed. The internet is pretty shit there. There's not much to do. Calling home on your cell phone is about €5 a minute. It's a bit of a disaster being there, apart from the windsurfing and the people you're with. Fortunately, every night everyone meets and we all have dinner together. That's super fun. Food is cheap, beers are cheap. You're done for €5-6 for a full meal in a restaurant, we said. So staying there is cheap, and accommodation is good. It's a lot of people stay at the Nest Hotel, which is I think about €70 a night. It's perfect, fantastic hotel, but you can easily go for some bed and breakfast places, which is way less. I think we paid.
So what budget you're talking about for, let's say, you do the 3 weeks like you did, it's
probably around €7,000
so
plus equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the place is harsh on equipment. I have to say.
I asked him to bring his Lüderitz sails, but he didn't dare to. He said it was totally destroyed after 3 weeks.
If I had rolled that sail out here and told you this sail has been used for 3 weeks, you'd all say, fuck Simmer style, that's shit quality, I don't want to buy that. But I mean, the thing is, it's super salty, the water. It's in a salt reservoir where we sail, so the salt percentage is crazy. It's super dry and it's warm. All the stitching in your sails will dry up and break and everything. Just your downhole rope lasts for half a day. Something. It's hard on the equipment. And then all the gear goes on the trailer, and you have 4 sails each time. It's just hard on just the booms and everything moving back and forth. It's just hard on the equipment. So it's not done, the sail, but
pretty much.
It's not looking great afterwards.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about equipment.
Yes.
What you carry, what you take along, what's packed How many board bags? What boards?
The good
what
thing
sails?
is that you actually only need to go with one size board, which would be your smallest speedboard, and then I would say a 5.0, 5.4ish, and maybe a 5.8. The 5.8, you're not going to go break any records with it, but you can get some practice runs. If I go again, I'd probably not even bring the 5.8. I'll probably just bring the 5.4 and the 5.0, because now the bar is set. The bar is now 50 knots, and I'm like, that's not going to happen with a 5.0, not for me. There's a few really good, Antoine and these guys, they've done 50 knots on the bigger stuff. I think even on 6.3s. For me, that's not going to happen. I'm going to have to be on like a smaller sail. So you could probably go, depends a little bit on your weight, of course, as well. I think you could go with 2 sails and 1 board.
And 2 foot straps.
Yeah, and you only need 2 foot straps as well. And make sure to bring more than one of your best fin, because there's a good chance that you will destroy it.
And a shitload of Formuline I hear, and
that as well.
yeah. And just bring a regular mast extension.
Ah, yes. I brought some very technical devices from another brand, and
They don't last.
They don't like salty water. So bring a very
Basic.
dependable, basic extension and a few sets of downhole rope. Yeah, you only need 1 pair of harness lines also.
Yeah, travel light.
Actually, it's interesting. I didn't rotate my sail 1 time on that trip. Not once did I rotate the sail. I've worked that out. It's like, I've not rotated this sail. But you also, what you realize is when you come there is that all the guys who've done this before, they look at your gear and they go like, okay, yeah, it's looking good. You need 2 spaces more there, you need 3 more there, you need 3 more there, and you need 3 more on the bottom. You're like, but then you can't rotate this. It's like, no, you don't need it to rotate. All you need is to be able to hold on to that thing for dear life. So it's, but the guys there are really good to help you out and with your equipment and fine tune for that place, because that definitely needs, it's a different thing. You need a couple of centimeters more of downhole. You need no outhole at all in the sail, like super negative outhole because you're going so deep. You don't need it. It's you need long harness lines. The good thing is you don't need to bring weight for your harness weight vest, because they have that there. They have that. You rent lead. There's a guy there who makes a business of just having lead plates that he rents out for everyone. So you just pay him. I think it's by 30 euros a week or something like that, and you get 10 kilos and you're set. Good business for him. I think he's done that for the past 10 years. No.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from you guys? Is there any questions or you want to talk?
I think we were just lucky this year. No, I mean, obviously I went myself, and then Ben Prophet went to do the commentary and the videos. And then we had Sarah Davies there, and Farrell O'Shea was also using this. So yeah, we had 4 guys. And on our side, we had Mitch Wagstaff from South Africa. He was there for a week. He was also using our sails. He's on the team. So yeah, we had quite a few. Yeah, and they stand out. You notice the yellow sails where there's no orange or red in them. Makes them stand out. We had a good impact on that event. Yes. Thank you for noticing.
When you compare your board to the boards of the other sailors,
Yeah.
are they equal or are there great difference between the boards? Because everyone has another ideas about shaping a board.
I mean, a lot of people were sailing a board very similar to this one, which proves that it's probably the fastest board. I mean, there's not many new speedboards coming out. The brands who are carrying speedboards in their range are boards that's been around for even almost 10 years, others for, let's say, 5 years plus. This is definitely the newest speedboard you can put your hands on, and therefore maybe also the newest philosophy of boards. And as I said, it comes from the hands of the man who produced the board that set the world record. In 15, and no one has really come out with anything different. So it's a really good board. Anyone who went on that board in Luderitz this year set their new record, broke their personal record.
Could you turn them around?
I can probably try. Mark, if you take this.
Yeah,
one.
sure.
Let's see what happens if we turn it around. It's a relatively simple shape. It's almost flat. Has a little bit of a V into it and a microscopic amount of rocker in the tail just for added control. But it's not a lot of steps or anything. There's no cutouts. It's very straightforward. It's just an enormous amount of control, and control is what you need to go fast. That's control and speed goes hand in hand. I think we all know if you're in, you sometimes feel, usually when you feel you're going fast, you're going slow. And when you feel like, okay, this was not too crazy, you look at your GPS, oh, fuck me, I was fast. That's because the water is flat and conditions just gave you the opportunity to go fast. I will say in Luderitz, though, when you get above 50 knots in peak, there's some other things happening. Everything starts to feel fast then.
You don't worry about spin outs?
You need to have some fins you trust. I mean, for sure. I was testing I ended up using the set fins, the asymmetrical set fins. They gave me an enormous amount of trust. I think I come from a slalom background. I tend to push quite a bit on my legs, whereas people who've been speed sailing for a long time but maybe never really done any slalom sailing, they don't push so much on the fins. So depending a little bit on who you are, there's some super fast foils. Let me not get into any names, but there is some super fast foil fins that is quite slippery that I don't personally like because I push too much, so I push them for spin up. The set fins for me gave a good balance between a fast foil, but also where you could push on the fin.
Bob, you had a question, didn't you?
Yeah, when it comes to breaking records and speed sailing in general, where do you think is the area where the most progress can be made in terms of development? Will that be sails?
It's the
oars,
sail.
or sails?
It's the sail, for sure. For sure, it's a sail.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously, when it gets super technical, what happens? I think it's around 54 knots. You have a cavitation problem with the fin, which means the water starts boiling.
Yeah.
But that's really, really technical. There's a few people now working on a fin that actually has a bevel into the trailing edge, so it actually becomes hollow. If that works, I don't know. It's all a bit theoretical, this cavitation thing. But the theory is that I think it's around 54 knots. Then actually the water starts to boil, and that's not good. So obviously we need to work that out. But that's becoming a little bit too technical for me. For sure, it's the rig we need to work on. That's the person. We are a massive amount of wind resistance, but we're also going so deep off the wind that the question is, does that really make a difference? The problem for the windsurfer is we are super inefficient. We can go, in light winds, we can double our speed of the wind. In 10 knots, we can go 20 knots. In 30 knots, we cannot go 60 knots. In 30 knots, we can go 45 knots. And then so forth. And in 50 knots, we can maybe go 55 knots. So we're super inefficient as we accelerate. And that's what we need to work out how to improve on that aspect. And I think that's in the rig. How is a good question. Huh? Yeah, I personally don't think the big difference. I mean, a lot of people think that those who have an asymmetrical boom, which means there's nothing on this side, that it's because of wind resistance. It's not. It's because you need a really, really deep sail. So in theory, you can't have the sail deep enough if you have the boom on both sides. That's why they make the asymmetrical boom. It's not because they want to reduce the wind resistance. But wind resistance as long as we're there, fuck that tube. It's not gonna make any difference. there's a few theories around how to make faster sails. Every year the brands, they all come up with slightly different sails, a little bit of tweaking and tuning. I think
When they changed the kennel with a few degrees.
This year it was a little bit tighter. It was, they said it was 1 degree closer to the wind. Obviously, the deeper it goes, the more you also have rolling chop. So when it's super windy, it becomes more and more bumpy. And I know it looks flat, but I'll say when you're traveling around 100 kilometers an hour, in the end, it's not flat. It's really not. It's not flat at all. Even if the chops are like this, it feels like you're flying out of the water.
Here was another question.
I think about 2 years ago you had like a dedicated speed sail in the range, right? Wasn't it 2000?
Yes, we do.
Is the slalom sail based on that sail, or is that just a chapter that you?
It's a completely new sail. We from 16 to 17, we completely split it with any prior philosophies and made brand new sails.
But since you're going next year again, you just talked about that the rig is the most important. Is there maybe 2019 going to be a different speed sail?
Maybe we'll go. We're sitting at the table now, looking at options on where we.
Yeah, the whole Simmer team is pumped, so there has to be something.
Well, of course, we're looking at what possibilities there is to go.
A wave sailor can go 50 knots on a slalom sail.
Yeah.
I mean, next year maybe.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I have an idea about making a regular sail that only works on one tack for Luderitz. Because you build a sail, you stitch up a sail that's supposed to work on both sides, but couldn't you stitch up a sail that only works? I don't know, but that's so specific that it.
Interesting, because Simmer is one of the few brands who are actually making symmetrical sails with their central positioning of their battens. So starboard and the port side are identical.
Yeah.
And that could be an angle, Mikkel.
It's just an idea that I personally had. Like, okay, would there be an idea in stitching up a sail that actually only sits on one side for that place? Obviously, that doesn't work for any other place, but for Luderitz, maybe it's an idea to work on a sail that just sits on one side. But then you can also consider asymmetrical masts and all that stuff. Not so much for wind resistance, but just for maybe you can have a mast that bends in a special. It becomes pretty technical.
Yeah. Okay then.
Cool.
I think it's about time to wrap it up as far as the live show is, and we have some informal chats here. We just leave it running. I'm looking at Jort. Come in. Come have a. Say hi to everybody. He's the guy.
The video man.
The video man. He took
The
care of
guy
all this
behind the
stuff. He's the only one wearing a T-shirt actually.
Yeah.
So thanks Jort for making this happen. And thanks you guys for showing up.
Oh yeah, you actually. I'll bring you back. Let me see your watch. Let's do a bit of advertising for this product. The watch you're wearing. I think one thing that's very crucial if you go to Luderitz is get that watch, even for any type of speed sailing. Get that watch. It's a really good product, and the more you use it, the more you work out. You can set it. I mean, I learned so many things there. Like, okay, if you're doing a 500 course, if you're going slow, set your watch to 20 seconds. If you're going fast, you need to set it at 18 seconds. So then you can sort of, if you have a 20 second, normally set it for 10 seconds. So you have an average speed of 10 seconds, but if you do 500s, you set it for 20 seconds. If you're trying to hit 50 knots, then maybe you set it for 18 seconds, because then you can sort of get an indication of where you're in the ballpark. Because it obviously shows a 500, but if you got a 20 second, then you got a parameter more to work on. So if your 500 and your 20 seconds is good, okay, then you get.
Thanks Jort. Thanks everybody. Thanks for showing up, and thanks Mikkel for coming over all the way from Denmark. And
thank you. It was a pleasure.
All good, man.
Thanks for asking me to come.
You're welcome. Anytime. Come back next year when you cracked it. Yeah, now you got to clean up that mess.
I can crack the beer.